What's wrong in America is what's wrong everywhere. Bad governance. For as long as I can remember, my main concern in the world was I wanted better government. That sounds silly, I know. A kid caring about government? But I grew up in a lot of different countries and explored more than 60 by the time I was 20. In each, I loved to read the history, the politics, and go firsthand to see what life was like for others, how the gears of government turn. All this traveling and observing makes one wonder, what makes a good place and what makes a bad place? Most of the time the answer is good government or bad government, because government reaches into every business, every life, and takes something. If it takes too much, most people suffer. This suffering is what motivates me to solve this problem. Working under the most corrupt governments in the world is a wonderful preparation for working in Washington, D.C., as you begin to notice familiar patterns across the board. That is not just governments, but anything politics touches that is corrupt, nonprofits, political parties, and big business alike. So, governance, the wider term for what governs us, was the problem I found. So I widened my focus and got a master's in global governance. My goal was trying to find a way to make governance better. I realized in all of these areas touched by governance, organizations became slow, less efficient, expensive, hard to change, and completely out of touch, beyond superficial results. And a word, elitist. Why? Because they all responded to the donor class, a small group of wealthy people who don't care about the average person. It was a political class. Unlike classes of old, anyone can join. You just have to repeat the donor-inspired talking points and take bribes. Then the world is your oyster, except most of the stuff you do hurts normal people. So how do we get good governance? Or better governments? We need better politicians, and to make a better political platform, a good platform, something nonpartisan that can catalyze real change and encourage everyday people from all walks of life to participate and get things done. Basically, the opposite of what we have now, where Americans are being ignored on every issue for special interests by an elite political class who claim to know better on every problem. If you think your politicians are better than Uganda or Egypt or India, you are wrong. The people and the Constitution have kept them in check. A system of beliefs are what makes America, America. America is a creed, but politicians do not hold these beliefs. And every day they fight these core values. Can you take billions from donors and believe in the freedom of speech while you sell yours? Can you believe in fighting for what's right and sponsor giant trillion-dollar wars for no reason other than profit? Can you let drug companies profit while Americans get sick and die? Can you sell out America and still believe in it? No, of course not. You can only allow this if you aren't on our team. Like in all countries, politicians are a class of their own. Our leaders do not aspire to be good Americans. They aspire to be wealthier and more powerful than politicians in other, more exploitative countries. That's who they compare themselves to, their peers. What we need is a good platform that follows, not fights, American values, that values ordinary people fighting for a better tomorrow. The whole point of America was to control politicians and power better, and experiment in good government. Yet here we are, letting politicians change the rules again. So what is it that keeps ordinary Americans from politics? The drama of two sides endlessly fighting and claiming the other is responsible for all the problems in the world. Political tribalism. The influence of money that turns politicians, both elected and unelected, to betray the public in their time of need. Political corruption. Finally, the bureaucracy, the political establishment. the all-pervasive elitism of a nepotistic group in permanent Washington that censors and suppresses all new ideas, perspectives, and people from entering politics or social causes. Whether it's charities, political parties, or the city, state, or federal government itself, every level is responsible to the donor class, the super donors in particular. Anyone with money can call the shots and dictate policy against the will of the American people, leaving little to be done in the realm of pragmatic solutions for decades on end. How can we reverse this and make a more just system? We can start by undoing this bad system that we have today with a good platform. That is the solution. One that fights this bureaucracy and says no to political tribalism and ideology and money and politics, and focuses solely on getting things done for the average American. Let's dig into detail on the good platform. No bureaucracy. First, we should ask the obvious question: do we need a political class? The honest answer is no. We don't need people telling us how to live or what to believe. It's the people's duty, not theirs, to decide what is or is not important. Political class shouldn't even exist in a democracy, or even under our current laws. Rather than a class, all we need is a simple list. If we want to know what is important, why don't we just ask Americans and then do it? It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. We can select the most important top 10 and begin there. But keep the list open to everyone, all the time, all voters. That way, new like-minded problem solvers can collaborate on issues they care about in the community. The reason politics is not currently done this obvious, simple way is that it's very hard to be corrupt. When you ask people, then you get a majority vote and start working. It's hard to hide if you do nothing and pocket the money. Instead, we have closed lists they call agenda. This is decided behind closed doors for big money. Politicians who don't follow the agenda get punished and their finance pulled from their campaigns and then crushed and put out of sight and out of mind, which should only happen legally by voters voting them out, not big business pulling out their campaign and making it impossible to win. The other reason is it's very hard for smart people with good intentions to collaborate, since every single issue imaginable has a whole bureaucracy who never get back to you and want you to spend decades moving slowly up the ladder so they can be sure no new ideas get into their agenda. An open list, a top 10, cut through all that baloney and can make our lives better. No bribes. Put yourself in a corrupt politician's shoes just for a moment. You just worked with your friends in DC to take trillions of dollars from your taxpayers in pandemic relief, knowing that they'll be paying that debt back for the rest of their lives, and sent it to your friends in big business, and they re-elect you. Are you going to change your ways? What if you work in the state capital, Salem, and you take giant bribes throughout your campaign and hundreds of thousands of dollars and get little to nothing done and nobody catches you? All you have to do is say something bad about the Republicans and you get to go to DC and do insider trading. Are you going to change? No, of course not. The only way politicians learn is with consequences. They have zero fear of ever getting caught on finances because everybody does it. The only thing they fear is that voters will catch on and a few percent will be lost in their next election and they will lose their access to bribes and personal wealth. By saying no as voters, we can reclaim our power as citizens, refusing under any circumstances to vote for corrupt politicians, left or right, moderate or radical. This game of vote for me, I'm better than the other guy, is a mirage, an illusion. At the end of the day, we are just empowering their corruption, letting them get richer by taking money to betray us. Nobody gets paid millions to do good things on top of their $200K salary with benefits. We must hold higher standards and accept no narratives, blaming, mind games, or other trickery to get us to let corruption continue because of our hate for other normal Americans. That is their game. That is how you rob a nation of its wealth. By voting no and having them lose, They learn that they need to change and actually represent real people, not monopolies. And they will learn to listen to us if they want their job back. We are always one election cycle away from a less corrupt country, but they will never take us seriously as a people if we always bend over to fake promises and aggressively tribal campaigns. It's a weakness. If a politician takes corporate money, they are out. No vote, period. No tribalism. This red versus blue death pact to ride each other's backs until we go off a cliff as a country has got to stop. The vast majority of Americans are sick of it and don't believe truly that any one side is much better. They may have better ideas or agree more with your values, but they don't follow their values. They follow money. At the end of the day, we all end up voting for monopoly candidates and parties staffed by monopolies, run by monopolies, paid by monopolies. There is no real divide when it comes to many important problems. There is just Americans versus the establishment. We all need clean air, clean water, good food, and the ability to retire with dignity. On every single issue I just listed, the establishment, not the people, is the problem. We need unity in these troubled times. We need to put our faith in ordinary Americans, that they have more in common with us than our political establishment that governs us today. Because they make it impossible for normal Americans to run for office. I grew up in the same schools as royal families and diplomats. I have a master's from one of the top universities in the world. I have also worked with Nobel Prize winners fighting poverty and in think tanks in DC and Fortune 500 companies. Yet the second I make a statement about political corruption, all the doors slam shut in my face. It's impossible now for me to get on the radio, TV, or even with internet personalities and get them to respond to my emails or calls, even when I had previous meetings set up with those same people. And that's while running for Congress. They do that. They have zero interest in letting new people in their political country club. My point is, I know how this game works, and I'm not completely surprised, but still I was a bit taken aback by how bad it's gotten, how even by developing world standards, things have gotten out of control. Americans are better at censorship than the vast majority of countries, as algorithms are mostly in English. Nevertheless, I ran to prove a point that ordinary Americans can and should run for office. We should keep fighting every day to hold power accountable. Anyone not playing by the political tribes and the narrative of the two-party system gets shoved aside. I have no radical political beliefs. These people know I do good work, but it doesn't matter. Big money is all that matters, and I'm not rich, and I won't take bribes. So they want to remove me from the conversation entirely. The same people, by the way, claiming to be for the working class and for small business. I am both. Anyhow, if you want to learn more about my campaign, it's in the description below. We have so much to share, to work together on, and collaborate to solve, as all real progress on these issues is always done by putting aside tribes and just working together as individuals on the same team. We are supposed to be on the same team, remember? There is a way for ideologies to coexist, for different opinions to flourish, and for individuals to maintain their individuality while working on big problems as one team. That is by respecting that the majority always rules. Anything else is saying that we are not equal, that we are more important than others. This thinking has gotten us splintered into tribes. It is time we foster this common ethic that our ancestors figured out so long ago was the only real way to build tribes into nations. It is actually a far stronger party and platform that has a lot of left-leaning people and a lot of right-leaning people fighting side by side for the people. The establishment will not know what to do with us. The point of a good platform is not to be a new partisan party. Non-corrupt Democrats and Republicans could join with no issue. It's about building a movement for ordinary people without any limits of party, ideology, or money that plague every good cause to date. The idea is to take what it means to be a good politician and make it into a system anyone can follow, So how does what I just talked about fit into this idea of a good politician? A good politician puts the people first. They learn from experience that both they and their party can often be wrong about the issues and out of touch. So they regularly reach out and talk directly to voters and write it down. This is no bureaucracy, no filter. Make a list for your voters' wants and pick out the top 10 and do it. This makes it into a system so everyone can practice daily this vital habit. A good politician does not take bribes, so make it a policy. No bribes and hold everyone to it. A good politician does not look at the world from only one perspective, but honestly tries to see problems from both sides. So no ideology, no tribalism. These are how you make a good politician. This is the system by which to start. This is the good platform. Some may doubt the ability for ordinary people to make change in our lifetime. Making a list, then picking out the top 10 by respecting majority rules and doing it, that is totally doable. That's all a political platform needs to be. Simple and honest. Change is possible.